Okay, how to become the fastest distance runner you possibly can be. Now, if I was to go back and restart in running, this is exactly what I would do in order to get the very most out of my body and to achieve optimal results across all distances from 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon, and ultra marathon. This is exactly what I would do. And by the end of this video, you'll have not only the targets to put in place for yourself in a way more interesting way, but also the specific sessions and how to analyze those specific sessions in order to move forward optimally and get somewhere towards your potential, which we've all got a lot of room in order to make. Now, when I restarted in running, very quickly wanted to find my niche because I knew that focusing on a niche would get me further. And so I very quickly found ultra running. Initially I did a 50K and then I wanted to get faster for 100K. And the way that my brain worked was very, very simply, if I can run a 5K in less than 20 minutes, that means I can run a kilometer in 4 minutes. So it means that with training, with endurance, I can run 100K at 4 minute per kilometer pace. And that's essentially what I did. I went and ran 4 minutes per 0.1 second for the 100K and ran 6 hours and 41 for 100K. That's what I did. Is it the best way to get there? I think there is a better way. And let me just explain this to you so that you can implement these rules and strategies so that you can get the very best out of your running. Now remember that a lot of people jump into the marathon. Why? Because it's the marathon, it's a big deal. And whenever you speak to a non-runner or somebody who knows a tiny little bit about running, they'll ask you what's your marathon time. And maybe people in the office or friends are training towards a marathon and you want to get involved. I completely get that. But how many marathons can you do properly to your full potential every year? And how quick is that progress going to look like? If you can do like Eliud Kipchoge does 2 marathons and he's extremely well trained and that's all that he has to do, nothing else. He just has to focus on winning races and he can only do 2 because that's the optimal amount. It takes recovery time, 2-3 months to recover properly and then get back into training at a top level and go again. How can we do better than that? How can you do better than that as a recreational runner who's probably got a full-time job and has probably got maybe a family or girlfriend or wife or husband or boyfriend? You've not got the same amount of time available as Eliud Kipchoge. So doing even more than 2 marathons might be a bit crazy. And more than that, it's not just going to be crazy because crazy is good, but it's not going to lead you to an optimal result, meaning you're not going to be able to get the best possible time for the marathon. Here's a better way about it. What I would do is collect as much data as you possibly can from your running. So if you're new to running or if you're in the first 3-4 years, you're still new to potentially structure, you're still new to speed endurance, specific endurance run, so specific long run to build your endurance, your stamina, but also to get used to race pace. If we start to gradually increase these and input these into our structure in our weekly and training regimes, then it's going to make us move forward, not just each area move forward, but we'll move forward exponentially. If we then add to that strength work, the right type of diet, the right nutrition, all these different factors will make each aspect of our game move forward together. So the results will be exponential and that will make us get towards reaching our potential if we do it in the right way and if we listen to the right people. What I would do to collect that amount of data is I'd just focus on 5K. I would just focus on 5K. And what that will mean for me and what that means for you is that you can race every 3-4 weeks, all out race, see where you're at, see what you're doing and see how what you're doing in training is affecting your race time. And you might start and it might be 30 minutes for 5K. You might be trying to dip under 29 minutes. It might look like that in the very beginning, or you might have already run towards 20 minutes and you're trying to run faster than that. But what it's going to give you is you're going to follow the structured training plan. Everything can be super gradual. Start at your interval session, which I'll talk about in a second. Your weekend long run, and that's specific to the 5K that you're doing. So you're building enough endurance to really push in the 5K, but you're also running specifically towards race pace or thereabouts. And I'll tell you how to do that in order to feed nicely back into that. Every 3 weeks, you go all out at a 5K and you get that feedback. The feedback and how to analyze that. What's working? Why did that go wrong? Was it a wrong breakfast? What did I eat the night before? What's working? All these different experimentations you can do way more of if you're training towards a 5K and you're able to run one of those every 3 weeks than if you're training to a marathon and you're able to do one every 6 months or at a push every 4 months. Way more data to look at. And you're also reinforcing something really positive. You're putting it on the line every 3 weeks, every 3 to 4 weeks, let's say. You're getting out there, you're getting competitive, and it's intense. Running a 5K is intense, way more intense than the total marathon. Maybe not as intense as the last 5K for some of us, but it's it's about being on the limit. It's about being on your personal limit, whether you're trying to break 40 minutes or whether you're trying to break 15 minutes. You're on the limit for that 5K because it's only a short amount of time. And so with that, we get feedback, whether it's the breakfast, what's the breakfast supposed to be looking like? What works for me? Is it an hour before, just as I've said, 5 banana smoothie? Or do I need a full breakfast, a full porridge, 100 grams of porridge 3 hours before, wait for it to metabolize, get out of my system? That makes me run on all. It's probably gonna be a lighter breakfast. What intervals are working? So we might start doing 1 minute repeats, 2 minute repeats. And you might break up around about 3.5, 4 kilometers of hard work and break that up into 1 or 2 minutes or 3 minute intervals or 400 meter intervals or 200 meter intervals. And then we start to get that natural raw speed and start to build that. How does that impact your 5K race time? When we start to increase the size of the interval, the length of the interval, if we start to do 5 minute intervals or 10 minute intervals, or we start to do kilometers or 2 kilometer repeats, how does that feed in? It's that kind of speed endurance, about being on the limit, but being in control. You can't run 2 kilometers or you can't run for a 10-minute interval and be out of control, go into the red, because you won't be able to bring it back and you'll destroy the interval. And so you'll learn very quickly how to pace those shorter intervals, how to pace the longer intervals, and how they work for you with your specific 5K goal race time, the long run. And we are constantly getting the feedback from that 5K race time. So how is it moving forward and what's working? Wow, those 1 minute intervals, those 2 minute intervals, they really make my 5K race pace feel super easy. So I'm going to start doing a lot more of those. And that really works for you. And then you realize with a longer interval, actually those 2 times 10 minutes when I'm trying to run under 20 minutes for the 5K, 2 times 10 minutes at faster than race pace, they make the first 3 to 4K of a 5K feel really, really comfortable. So on race day, I can push for that last kilometer and make tens of seconds on that final kilometer. And that's how it feels like to be in control. So you're learning with a 5K race to be in control, to feel as if it's completely within you to run that pace. There's more data because you're running every 3 to 4 weeks, you're running a race. So we're getting more data, what's working. When we start to look at the specific long run to build endurance and stamina, it might look initially just like an hour running. So that might be 3 times or twice as long as the 5K run that we're doing, 5K race. So it might be that we're just out there for an hour and we're doing long, slow distance. And it might be the first time we've done any endurance specific work. So even that long, slow distance will start to give you a lot more strength and endurance to run and really pushing your 5K. It might be that you then move after 4 to 6 weeks, you move to a specific long run. And so you get those minutes, those 2 minute intervals, and then those 3 minute intervals and 5 minute intervals and 10 minute intervals. How does that feed into your long run? So you then start to do something like, let's do a 15K long run, or let's an hour long run. First 20 minutes, it's very easy. Middle 20 minutes is 5K pace plus, so slower by 10%. 5K pace plus 10%. And we do that for the middle for the middle 20 minutes. And then the last 20 minutes is easy again. So we're building the endurance, but we're also got a second opportunity in the week to build that threshold, to build that speed specific to the race pace that we're trying. And again, 3 weeks later, we're hitting that. And how is that long run, together with the shorter intervals and the longer intervals, how is it impacting our race performance? We get to see with running, we get to see time. It's not subjective. It's not like, well, I really improved with my basketball or my football, but I'm not scoring goals or shooting hoops. I'm not doing that because maybe it's subjective and maybe you're not getting the ball like you were before. With running, it's very much black and white. What is your time? And yes, there's going to be some outliers where you're not feeling it. There's going to be some outliers where you're feeling great and you smash it out of the pack, you run a minute quicker, and then you're disappointed the next week when you can't run the same time because all the stars have aligned the week before and everything's gone to your favor. You might have had the perfect climate, the perfect temperature, a little bit of rain so you feel fresh, those kind of things. But what you're gaining with that, you're gaining more time racing and more data from that race as to what's working. Short intervals, the longer intervals, the specific endurance, just the long, slow distance at first. What kind of impact is that having for my 5K race? And all those strategies, all those plans, we can implement in the further distances. So in actual fact, by getting that right and becoming a good trainer, We've got the work ethic, we've got the habit, we've got the constant feedback, much more feedback coming back from the 5K races, and then we're able to implement that when we go to 10K and half marathon. You can run a lot more half marathons every year than you can a marathon, and we can start to mix it up. We might say, okay, we're doing 1 marathon a year, but I'm going to do 3 half marathons, I'm going to do a load of 10Ks, and I'm going to do a load of park runs or 5Ks. And what does that look like when you feel really comfortable running what was at one point your dream marathon time? That feels so comfortable for 5K or for 10K. How does that make your marathon time look? So everything feeds into everything. A good 5K runner will have nailed those strategies, that training schedule over a week, month, full training schedule, in order to run optimally for 5K, so that when he or she moves on to 10K and half marathon, we've got all the methods, we've got all the training philosophy, we just need to implement it. Again, what works specifically for us, and how do we implement it into the next goal? That's the key to training and the progressions. I hope that helped. And if I had it again, I might do this. I might go back and document it and just see. If I try to run a 5K as fast as I possibly can, what does that look like when I start to run a marathon? And maybe that's a long journey. It might be a 12-month journey, but what does that look like? If you got anything from this, please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you've got any great comments, which I keep seeing great comments, please pop them below.